You guys should have gotten a message, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Welcome to our Go Team meeting. Let's go ahead and continue with our budget presentation. Thank you all for joining us again. And I just want to remind everyone once again that my staffing conference is going to be on the Tuesday we return, where I run them through this plan right here. And then we will come back on that Thursday, the 29th, where I'm going to give a dollar by dollar amount, where I'm going to show you where we went from when I opened my budget template up all the way down to balancing it out to zero so you understand. Hopefully today, what you can do is take away a little bit of understanding about how we're aligning our funding to our strategic plan. And we'll go through some of our strategic priorities and some of the positions that I've created. But in order to create some of those, we've had to abolish some of those. And I'm going to try and walk you through some of that. We have experts on the call like Mindy and Maggie and Lena, who are able to sort of speak a little bit more to that if they have any specific questions. Remember, we're talking about positions and not people. So it's kind of easy to sometimes say a person's name, but I'll do my best not to do that. But the good news is with our budget, just remember that we are really picking up right where we left off last year and then adding a little bit more. And that's because we're growing and we need more teachers. So we are at a spot this year where there's not a lot of changes. Everybody's coming back, including some more. So we'll talk about that in just a second. And by the way, this is interactive. So if you have any questions, just stop me for our Go Team people and just ask any questions that you might have. Here's our norms. Of course, you can read those on your own. A little bit right here, we're at the budget choices. Okay, it's that fourth step before our vote. We've done the data review, we did our strategic plan, we set those parameters of priorities, and now we're here. Right here, you can see that I have my staffing conference next. That has to come first. Some people might say, well, why do you do a staffing conference before the Go Team approves it and then you go to it? One thing I will have to tell you and remind you is that the principal does have the sole discretion of the budget and the hiring process, that we take feedback from the Go Team, but ultimately speaking, what APS says goes, kind of what I say goes, of course, with feedback from the Go Team. So what we try and do is find that happy medium between our community and Go Team and APS, and I'm sort of that bridge. So I'm going to take what I have today, we'll take it in front of Go Team and in front of my staffing conference, and then we'll vote on it the next time we come. Just a little bit about this meeting. I'll let you guys read that. We are right on track with our timing, which was good, strategic on our plan. I'm gonna keep going if you guys are okay. All right, this is a slide from our last Go Team. These are our 10 strategic priorities. We talked about the rationale for this. Is not the first time you've seen this, but I will just highlight that we're looking at growth in ELA. We're looking at subgroup growth across all content areas. We're building systems to increase academic and emotional support for our students. We're increasing academic student mastery in math, science, and social studies. So that's all of our 4 big subjects here. We're looking at in staff engagement and retention. Of course, supporting our IB, DLI, and gifted programs. This is a big one coming up next year, by the way. We have our visit date set for March of 2025. So in 1 year, from like a year and a month, all of IB's coming back into our school and reauthorizing us, which is going to be big. The last time we did that, I want to remind you all, was right in the middle of the pandemic, and we had all of it set and everything was ready to go, and they ended up doing it virtually for us. It's hard to show the great things your school does in a virtual setting, but we're excited to have them back. Big focus around special education, making yearly gains. I can talk a little more to that. We looked at our data, we looked at our flags. We noticed that special education students actually met their targets and exceeded it last year. We need to continue that push. We need to continue to grow them because we can't take a step back. And if you're curious, that's my CON fellowship project, is how we continue with great special education academic gains with an entirely new special education team. Some of the sports that we've put into place and so forth for them. We want to continue to build our capacity for our teachers because of this House Bill 538 we talked about that's coming. At the very end of this presentation, I do want to show you guys a little bit of the Readers Are Leaders rollout, which you're going to learn that every single employee K-5 in APS, including every central office employee, will be doing between now and the start of next year. I'm going to show you that. I think it'll be exciting. Faculty training around that, opportunities for student engagement, and of course, the culture piece for our staff. This is just a little bit of the strategic plan breakout categories. You'll see those in just a second. So it's priority. You're going to see the APS 5. Remember, we have 5 of them. Data, curriculum instruction, whole child intervention, signature programming, and there's one more. I never remember it, but we'll probably see it. Strategies, the ask, and the amount that it's going to cost. I want to just preface this by saying it's a little bit of a weird slide. It's kind of hard to like put a dollar amount on each of these strategic priorities. I also want to remind you all that we don't have a lot of money to start the school year with. We rarely do. We typically have about 50 grand to make us through the entire school year, while schools that are a quarter of our size have $400,000 to $500,000 to make them through the school year. And that's because of federal funding, Title I funds, family engagement funds that they get, but we don't get that. So a lot of the stuff you're going to see on there will always be funded, but sometimes through our foundation. But I always want to make sure that it is included in our budget so I can show APS we have the money for this. But in the back end, we all know that some of these asks are going to come from the foundation, which just frees up a little bit more money for us to spend for next year. So we'll talk about that in just a moment too. And then we talked about the cost. Okay. So these are some of the things that I have mapped out for you. It's going to make more sense in a different slide you're going to see below. So I just want to sort of show you what we're tying some of the funding into. First priority has to do with students reading on grade level. We want to continue to fund our reading programs like Wit and Wisdom and Foundations, which is our phonics program. We did roll that up in 3rd grade this year. We want to purchase MyLexia, that online program that we all know about. So I want to make sure that we allot this amount of money to this strategic priority. It's a good example of how we're going to start. Academics progress, subgroups making that. Make sure subgroups are making academic progress. For me, a lot of this has to do with our reduced class size. It has to do with our EIP teachers. EIP stands for Early Intervention Program. It's a reality at Morris Brandon that many of our subgroups sit in EIP that need additional supports. So while it says subgroups making academic progress, I think the important thing is that we're allotting additional teachers to help support that academic progress, really for all students. So on the budget template, you're going to see 8 early intervention program teachers. These are teachers that are really just an addition to the homerooms to add another teacher to a grade level to help reduce that class size. And then, and Mindy can speak to this if she wants, but only half of a grade level can be designated as EIP, which means that those are the classrooms that students that typically struggle will go into. And those teachers will do something different with those kids. They'll do some specially designed instruction. They'll do a different type of reading program. They'll have some time during the day to help support those students. So I want to continue to add those EIP teachers in. So for example, 2nd grade, we're going to have 2 EIP teachers. Now I could add 2 2nd grade teachers, right? I could put 2 2nd grade, but I want them to be the EIP teachers. I want them to be the place that students can go to get that additional support. In the back of your head, just remember that 2nd grade only had 6 teachers this year. They need to have 8 next year based on their numbers. So here's those 2 teachers. 2 in 4th grade as well. Want to have 2 EIP teachers in 4th. Some of these are not new positions. These are just what's in our budget already. And I'll show you what those new positions are in a minute. And I don't think they put the slides probably in the best order, but it'll make sense. We're going to have 2 in 4th. We're going to have 1 EIP teacher in 5th. We're going to have 1.5 for the primary center that are not tied to a homeroom, which means that's 1.5 teachers who are going to be doing pull-out EIP support, intervention support. It says 0.5 because that's 1 full-time person and then 1 half-time person, because the other half will be split with ESOL. So we have like 1.5 intervention teachers at the primary center. And then at main campus, and I should have had another, what do you call that there? But we'll have another half of an intervention teacher or EIP teacher, and they'll be split with ESOL as well. So overall, that's 7 intervention teachers that will be homeroom teachers or pull-out support teachers, and this is the dollar amount. If you're wondering how I get that, the price for a teacher has gone up, and it's $109,221 per teacher. Used to be about $95 last year or the year before, but as the raises came, we're paying more for teachers too. In the back of your head, to just think about where our budget lies right now with all these new positions, the increase of how much it costs for a teacher, and the ability for us to still maintain and retain all of our staff, because that was the big thing for me that I was worried about. I'm going to keep going. Right here, systems that increase academic and emotional growth for all. We want to continue to fund our full-time counselor and our school social worker. The counselor is a little bit more expensive. So for those that are asking for other counselors or those types of ideas, we'll talk about that at the end. Counselors are a lot more expensive. They cost about $132,000 for the year, but we are under the recommended support for a counselor. They typically say one counselor for every 700 students, 1.5 for every 700 to 1,000. So we're about a half a person short. I do personally feel like having a full-time social worker helps to fill that gap a little bit. Ms. Durant very much acts as a counselor, and that's a district funded position, so we don't pay for that. But I wanted to make sure that people understood, where we stand with that position and so forth.
Jay, were those two positions part of the CARES funding?
No, they were not. We fund the counselor, so they were not. But school social workers, if it was part of that, they figured out how to give me that allotment again. So that's coming from the district. I don't believe it's CARES. I believe that they want a social worker in every school full time now.
Wasn't there two positions from the CARES funding?
There is. I'm going to show you that in the next one.
Okay.
You'll be able to see that. It'll make a little more sense when I show you the positions I created and the positions we abolished. But you're right. There's 2.5 positions that were sitting on CARES that we also had to slide over. If you're curious as to what those are, I got an EIP first through third. I'll show you. You'll see. But my biggest concern was that we weren't going to be able to move those 2.5 teachers over and get them on our general budget. So we're able to really create all these positions that we need. Increasing math, science, and social studies. We want to continue, just like for reading up here, we want to continue to fund math programs. Now, the district does provide us in Visions, that textbook. The Godot resources online, Georgia DOE, are free. But what we need the money for is to continue to buy our online programming like Progress Learning and Happy Numbers that are about $10,000 each. Reminder that this funding could very easily be shifted over to the foundation, and that would free up a little bit of money for us to spend, because we don't really have that with all of this on here. But either way, if we pay for it, we have money for that. Okay.
Sorry, Jay, we pay for Progress Learning?
Correct.
Oh, okay. And then does this include, since it's part of the APS 5 to have the personalized learning, is this including like funding that they give us to implement personalized learning?
I don't know if they give us funding for personalized learning, but it doesn't really cost us anything. We have a cohort of teachers going through it, but I'm not sure of a price tag that's tied to personalized learning, unless I'm missing something.
No, I'm sorry. I just meant like these platforms like Lexia. And,
so we have to create the playlist, but what goes on the playlist, we typically have to fund, if that's
okay.
what you.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the personalized learning piece, we understand how to do it, but a lot of the little playlists and individualized path and pace, and we have to either fund or create ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
A little bit more systems to support our IB, PYP, DLI, and gifted. These are positions that are on there, but I want you to know the dollar amount of how much it costs for DLI teachers, right? In IB, we want to continue to staff an IB coordinator, and we want to continue to have 12 DLI teachers. That's important because it doesn't work without 12. And the price on that is right here, about 1.5 million. Okay. And it's important that we continue to fund that. What I did not put on there is our Spanish world language teacher that we created last year, but I do think that could fall under this category that we have. So we also offer foreign language for Spanish now, but only for our DLI teachers, our students, I'm sorry, but that could also fall under there. Special education, I want to remind you all that we tapped into our money last year to purchase another 0.5 special ed lead teacher. This person's sole job is to help support growth and literacy gains in our autism resource programs and pretty much that umbrella half-time. This is a position that typically CELTs are funded by the district. We already have another one that the district pays for, but we are paying $52,000 out of our own money to help support our 10% special education population, but also not knowing what's coming to us. The kindergarten and the autism programs and the ones that come in, we want to make sure that we have somebody dedicated to supporting them, because it can be a lot at the start of the year and throughout the year. I'll give you an example. We started our primary program with about 8 kids. We're up to 13. When you get emails all the time, hey, you got another one coming, you got another one coming. those students with exceptionalities also come with, supports that are needed. So we've actually earned another paraprofessional even for that classroom because we're over the threshold of 11 students. But having a CELT to help with that, in my opinion, is very important. 0.5 CELT. We want to continue to build capacity in ELA and reading, right? Professional learning. I've allotted this much money because we're looking at hiring a consultant to help with rolling out our science of reading, which we're going to talk about at the end of this with the readers are leaders. APS is actually providing every school a literacy coach position. So it's an additional position. And if you follow Marietta or Fulton, they're trying to copy that same model, which is great. And we're really excited that it just populated on my budget today, a readers are leaders coach. This is not to supplement Suzanne Lamb's position, her coaching position. I actually want to continue to keep two coaches because they play very different roles. But this is the person that is going to handle literacy in our entire building. And they're going to be experts in science of reading. And we have teachers that are excited about this, but we also have some in mind that I think would be really good. So in order to help with that rollout, we're going to take it a step farther and have a consultant who we know well kind of work with that coach in rolling out some of the professional learning to start the year next year. Last thing I have is the faculty training for House Bill. And that's the literacy specialist here. And I do want you to know that this is district funded. I didn't put that on there at the time because I wasn't quite sure, but now it's populated and everything literally right before the meeting. But we are getting a literacy coach next year that'll be an addition. But that means that if we pull a teacher out of the classroom, we have to hire for that classroom teacher again as well. Okay. Any questions around any of these priorities? Because it's going to make a little more sense, I think, in the next slide. I want to remind you of our budget by function, just a little bit around our overall FTE. That stands for full-time equivalent. That stands for the amount of full-time teachers dedicated to these positions. So we have 81 teachers that are dedicated to instruction, 81 and a half. That 0.5 is probably our 0.5 CELT because she's only here 0.5 times. The only half-time teacher we have. Pupil services are like our social workers, counselors, MTSS. And then you can just kind of go down here, media services, administration. One thing the district is looking at this year is top-heavy administration. They don't want to see a bunch of money funding additional assistant principals and things like that. I think we're good with where we are. We have one program admin, we have one principal, and we have two assistant principals for right around 900 kids. And so I think it is evident that we're not really top heavy at Brandon, or I don't feel like we are. And I think that's important because they're looking at that. Ashley, did you have anything?
Yeah, I had a question. So, was that Ashley Mathis?
No, that was you, Scott, because you were off.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that flex money, the 132 that we were gonna get, that was in the last year.
Yep.
Or the last meeting. So did that go to the counselor or where did that go?
So that's a good question. The flex money, remember, it's really just one big bucket. So you don't really see it as like a position. I could use it however I want.
Okay.
So when I show you the next slide, I'm gonna jump to this one and then I'm gonna come back to those. When I show you this slide, that flex position could have been any one of these teachers. Okay, right now, because all I'm tasked to do is to balance that budget from where it is down to zero, and everything needs to be accounted for. So the flex position really is just a full-time teaching position that's over here that helped us create these positions here.
Okay. And then
if we wanted to designate the flex for anything, like I could put on here that this second grade teacher right here, that we have to create a new position. These are all new positions that have never been on our budget template. That flex position could be the second grade teacher, for example.
Okay, got it. And we need another second grade teacher because of the class size.
Yeah, we do.
So the number I think is actually, like Jen McDonald said, the number for the counselor to kid ratio is 450, not 700. So can we not get any more APS funds for another counselor since we're under the Georgia standards?
Great question, but APS doesn't fund the counselor, so that's on me. So that's on me, and that's something that we can talk about when we get to this slide. kind of right here, which is what we're going to do with our reserve money. Because I want to remind everybody, we got about $150,000 if we reach 893. That's the goal. We come in, we hit our numbers, we got a lot of money to play with. And that's kind of what we need to discuss on what we use. Make sense?
Yes, thank you for
Now,
clarifying.
on the front end, yes, we could do a counselor on the front end, but in order to achieve what's on here, because this, in my opinion, is the most valuable piece, a counselor does not fit in on the front end. If they did anything, it would potentially come at the cost of a 5th grade teacher down here. Because do we need to have 7 teachers on 5th based on the number of 123 students? No. But having reduced class sizes in 5th and having 19 students as opposed to 25 just makes a big difference. And I felt that this year, and we never know who gets enrolled during the school year. Like we get
Yeah, and you can't tell by how many 4th graders are applying out at all. You
like
don't.
I can't really. My private school applications definitely sort of leveled out to kind of what they normally are, but you can
Okay.
see the drop from 4th grade to 5th grade right here is about 20 kids.
Yeah,
So they
and 25 is too much.
they
Yeah.
look at the trends and they Kavi, the guy in APS, pretty much predicts it pretty spot on. But I'll tell you, we'll finish the school year more than 123 because they don't anticipate the 5, 7, 10 kids that we get that come in the middle of the year. And I can tell you, we've gotten at least 7 5th graders, and at the beginning of the year, we got a lot of new 5th graders that I've never seen before. So they don't really, they're basically just factoring in who's coming from 4th to 5th and not all the new kids that we get for the first time. Mindy, you had a question?
I did, thank you. So going back to that other slide, I saw the 6, yes, the 6 pupil services. I'm assuming that's like MTSS, gifted. Is that also the instructional coaches and the IB? I'm trying to figure out who those people are or what positions those are, and I'm not sure.
Question. We kind of probably can think about that. So we would look at school administration. That would be 2 assistant principals. That would be a principal. That would be a program admin. And then we have a CELT, which would be the 5. And then it would be the instructional coach and I think one other position. The one thing I don't have on there is like who those people are and what categories.
No.
Under.
I
But I
get the
think
7. I get the
this-
school administrators. I'm looking at the pupil services.
Right. So the 6, so like if I had to guess pupil services, let's just kind of brainstorm, right? That's gifted, MTSS. Let's see what else. That's probably the CELT if I had to guess, but the other 0.5 is under instruction, so I don't think that is.
Is that
What
EIP
else?
Could be
teachers?
EIP
Could be the
teachers,
EIP teachers. That could be the EIP
Okay.
teachers. That's
Because
probably
EIP, ESOL. How many
Is that
EIP are major?
counselor, social worker? I'm just curious because 6 seems like a
counselor,
lot.
social work would be pupil services. Counselor and
Okay.
social worker would be pupil services too.
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
great question. And I will tell you, if Go Team has any questions, it's, hey, Jay, go find out like what job descriptions fall under pupil services. Cause I don't have that slide. Like I don't have a breakdown of what that is. So I know
Yeah,
everybody's
let's get
accounted
that.
for.
Let's get
That-
that.
Yeah, that'd be a good question. FT is just full-time people. So that's a good question. That's a good question. Instruction is all of our homeroom teachers, right? All of our specialists, right? All of our French teachers, world language, media, that kind of, well, media is down here with educational media, but to find out like exactly who's pupil services, I can get that information. Okay. Budget by function, it's the same thing here. It's just a graph. The one thing that you want to see is that the bulk of the money is going towards like instruction, right? You don't want to see it super top heavy under like, school administration or transportation or anything like that. But a good 75% of our budget is going directly towards instruction. I wanted to highlight this because this is a slide that speaks to what we're trying to do at Brandon. For having 983 students projected next year, 893 students, I get that mixed up, 893, which is bigger than any elementary school in the district by far. To still be able to have class sizes of this caliber and meet all our needs is good. I told you when I first got here, there were class sizes of 25, 26 across the whole building. We ran into hiccups the last couple of years where we had 25 in 4th or 26 in 5th, and it just didn't work for our kids. We know what the study showed. We talked about Hattie and reduced class size and what that means. Ultimately, like it's how good the teacher is. And we still got the data, but it drives the teacher out the door, right? We talked about retention, talked about like how to hold our teachers on. And teachers that had 25, 26 kids those years really are not at Brandon anymore. So I want to show you this. I have 169 kindergartners. I'm funding 8 teachers and 8 paras, same exact as last year. Class sizes of 20, and I'm going to put 25 in DLI. It's typically how we do it. If I drop DLI to 23, 24, that's okay. Those class sizes will pretty much stay around 20, maybe 21 in 1 or 2 instances. First grade, we're going to keep 8 teachers. Same thing, because we have them rolling up. We have average class size of 20, DLI is 24, because that's what's in K right now, 224 classes. Now, second grade, we're going from 129 to 172. That's a big jump. It's like 50 kids, right? So we have to create 2 more classes. So I'm going to show you how I created those, but we're going from 6 to 8 teachers. Average class size is 20. If I were to leave 6 teachers there, they'd have 30 in a class. So we're going to go to 20, and DLI will go 24 because that's what they're rolling up. Now, third grade is going from 142 to 129. So we're abolishing one of those positions, right? And we're moving it down here to second grade. And I'll show you what that is, okay? So we're going from 7 to 6 right here. And now, if anything scares me a little, and I'll just say, it might be, we get a lot of third graders that come in that we don't know about too. We start the year with maybe 10 or 12 new third graders. All of a sudden, its class sizes start to go up a little bit more. So that's something we have to keep our eye on. We're only 6. Like, I don't like 6 on any homeroom, but for now, if we're doing 1 grade level with 6, let's do third. And again, the average class size 19, DLI is 25. The good news is those DLI kids have stayed in the program, and they're not dropping down a lot. They're keeping 25 in their classes. We're going to keep 7 in fourth grade with 142, 19 and 22 DLI. And I really want to try and keep 7 in fifth, average 19 and 15. You might say, well, why don't we do 7 in third grade and keep 6 in fifth? But again, I feel like, and I believe that our fifth grade teachers with who we have in fifth grade, and it's important to note that we lose 20 to 30 kids. And fifth grade is really probably our truest example of a grade level diversity. We lose 30 kids to private school. So our fifth grade, our struggling learners are a lot more evident. We see them a lot more. The data speaks a little louder in fifth, right? Because we're missing those 25 to 30 additional kids that a lot of times are on grade level. And because of that, we have to make sure that we are giving fifth graders an opportunity to really be successful and not giving them higher class sizes and so forth. If we had to drop a class down to here, we could. When you look at leveling, if for some reason we came under projection or right around, but one of these grade levels went super high, 15 days into the school year, I'd look at fifth grade, I would shave off a teacher, I'd split those kids up, and I would move a teacher to another grade level. Don't want to have to do that, but that's kind of how it works, if that makes sense. 15 days into the school year, if we're not earning more funds, again, we have a little flexibility to pull a fifth grade teacher. Not ideal, but I mean, that's an option. Any questions around the class sizes? I always talk about Go Team being positive liaisons. So when we talk to our incoming families and our parents, we talk about having class sizes between 19 and 20 across K through 5, with the exception of DLI. Okay, in DLI, they understand it gets higher. And the reason why we have to put more in DLI is because after first grade, you can't put more kids into DLI. Right? You can only do the lottery up until first. So if we start losing kids in first or new kids come in, we can't put them in DLI, and it makes the other classes higher. So it's easier to start with more kids in DLI and have them filter out that way because you can't put more kids into DLI.
And hopefully, I think as time goes on, rising fifth grade parents realize how awesome fifth grade is at Morris Brandon and stay.
You're right. And I was talking to a parent about that earlier, and Go Team's doing a good job with that. And again, I will say that I personally think parents want to keep their kids here in fifth grade. And I talk to them, they do. They know how awesome fifth grade is. But that's going to trump some misconception or some word out there that you have to get into private school before sixth grade. I don't know how you change that. Like that's kind of the mentality that might need to change. I mean, I had a parent walk into my office today, give me a cookie, say, thank you so much for the private school application for her fifth grader, telling me how much and how sad she is she can't be here for fifth grade, And so I don't know how to fix that piece. That's the one I don't know how to change. So if there's, if that's something, then that's something we can brainstorm.
Well, I want to say this. I think keeping the class sizes small is a big first step. I think that's been a really good thing that we did. And I know earlier in the year we said, I'm so glad that we kept these class sizes smaller and made that a priority. Because I think we're seeing it, especially in fifth grade, that group in fourth grade that had the really big classes moving into fifth grade, their test scores are looking good. From what I think that like the social emotional needs are being met better. So I think we just keep raising the bar and we keep, making it the best learning environment it can be. So I do want to say I like seeing these class sizes where they're at now, because I think it's not too risky to where we are, going to have to definitely cut people. But it's also going to give us, if I get 1 or 2 kids or three new kids, I'm not maxed out in first
Right.
grade. I really like that we are planning on this size class. And I think it makes a big difference. I think it hits a lot of those learning priorities. I think there's some things that we can still do, but I think class sizes is a great first step.
I agree. I concur. And I encourage people, if you have friends in other cluster schools, ask them what their average class sizes are. And you'll kind of hear, because I know what they are at Sarah Smith or Jackson and E Rivers and some of those grade levels and some of those classes. I do want to talk about, before I get into my slide of like this, let's talk about our leveling reserve. So for the first time in a long time, I haven't dipped into that reserve before the end of the school year. I can get permission to spend that 147. So I will tell you, if we wanted to get a counselor right now, I could go in there, take 135,000 and we'd have 12,000 in reserve. But like, if we don't hit that 893, then that's just going to be the counselor going back, So the big thing is, remember that every child, it costs about $544. So if I'm under 20 kids or 15 kids, that money is gone real quickly. So I want to leave that there, but the good news is we've always kind of hit that projection. It's always been very close, if not above. We got to get to 893, if you remember, from the last time we talked. That's not including pre-K. And right now we're at 865. So can we get 18 more kids? What is that? It's 65, 75, 85, 90. Sorry. What is that? 28 more kids. Get the math right. Can we get 28 more kids? I think so, especially looking at these kindergarten class sizes that are coming in for the third year of having 169, 170 kids. Imagine when these 3 class sizes start rolling all the way down, we can have 8 per grade level all the way across the school. The data gets better, school gets better, the community is more invested, and we're on our way there. The data, like Mindy had said, is looking great this school year already. Everything's looking up. We're seeing growth in reading and math. I showed you the quadrants. Remember where we were last time? So we need to keep doing that. We always have room for feedback. And I will say I've got results of our family engagement survey, which were great, but there's some little comments people put in there that we can review maybe the next time, that Go Team can help tackle some of that. But for right now, let me talk about our holdback. So this is the money we have, about 147,000. The options we have for this money are right here: counselor, intervention teacher, gifted teacher, and this is the leftover money that I would use for, because it leaves about 15K on average for any literacy or just curriculum and supports. As a Go Team, we can decide, 15 days into the school year next year how we want to use that. But these are the 3 big ones that I know our community's been asking for. A counselor I get emails about. An intervention teacher, I put that on there because I just don't know what our intervention numbers are going to look like. In the last couple of years, we've hired an intervention teacher after leveling, like this year. So if for some reason we've got a ton of EIP kids or we can't fit the model or we need to do more pullout, we can look at that data and use that money to hire another intervention teacher. Gifted, we understand that we only have 1 gifted teacher, but we're, a third of our school is gifted. While we're making it work, how can we make that better? Well, that would be one. Having a gifted teacher for K2 and 1 for 3-5 would be a big one. And I will also tell you, and it's not written on here, we are still waiting on the security grant from the state, which is about 50K. And we can discuss when we come back, if we want to balance that 50K with another, be a 109, about another 60,000 out of that for a security officer. And that's something that we can discuss as a go team. That's not written in our strategic plan as a priority. However, I get sole decision making. So, that might be something we want to see.
2 questions, Jay. So last year I thought we had used some of our reserve for substitutes. Do you still need substitute reserve funds?
Great question. You got a great memory, Kim. I got to tell you. I have $110,000 in substitutes right now. Doesn't affect the budget at all. And that's
Okay.
what we need. We have 95 this year, and
Yeah.
we spent like almost all of it. Since we're hiring a few more teachers, I put every teacher, like 100 positions, or every 100 positions overall, or 110 positions. Every one of them I allotted 6 days. It spits out that number of about 109,000. And I can show that the next time we meet, when I just kind of give that breakdown of how we got to zero. So we are good with subs. We are good with our reserve. We are good with, kind of the little bucket of money we had to play with, just to have to get us through the year. Remember I talked about 10K for literacy, or 20K for math. Like that's kind of that 50K that I talked about playing with. And then we still have this reserve. So we are in a good spot where we are not losing money or positions if we hit 893 students.
And then my other question was, I
Yes.
thought APS came out with something about how they were going to use the security grant from the state.
That was there's been 2 security grants. So one of them went towards Centegix, which has already
Yes.
been rolled out. That was the one that came out, I believe, last year, which APS did take that money and put it all into our new badge system that we have here, that we have up and running. It's in every school. It's the emergency alert system. I bought all of our staff they have names on their name tags so we can keep them all. And then there should be one more grant that I believe the district is waiting on, that's going to go towards each school gets that individual money and they can spend it how they want to.
Okay. They weren't very clear in their communications out.
Yeah, there was a call last night, like a legislative call that they did.
Yeah.
Tuesday, and they talked about it on there, and they were saying that it was going to be an additional $50,000 that was coming in addition to do the systems.
Okay. Again, we haven't got a ton of clarity on that as well. From my understanding, that each school is still going to be getting an additional security grant, like 50K, that the school can use how they want. That's my understanding. And I think that if the Go team were going to do any, any probing or anything, they could find out when that's coming, or being 2 campuses, are we eligible for getting 2 stipends, so 100,000.
Jay, when they do give us that money, would that be something we could use on the buildings? Like, can we use it for facilities if we wanted?
It's going to be earmarked strictly for security. So I
No,
think
I mean, like, could it be like adding alarms to exterior doors, or like improving locks?
however we wanted. I
But it
will tell
could-
you,
okay.
I don't really see another way of using that money outside of an actual person at this point, because I do feel like we have done so much with fencing and glazing. We're getting our 2 vestibules. They'll be done by August 1st. So we'll have vestibules when the school starts. I've already looked at the plans. In a perfect world, they're there by August 1st, but there's about 7 other schools that are all getting it at the same time. But I've seen the plans, they've come. So starting August 1st, when we start, parents will have to enter into the office and then get buzzed in. So we have I feel like we have the best shell of security ever, but what's the stamp that we have to put on it with this 50K? That we have to just
Well, I remember, and you know way more about this than me, so don't, you might be like, no, that's already been dealt
Okay.
with. But the gate that leads to the that crosses the street that leads to the playground. I know there was talk about putting a badge,
like a
scanner
badge
thing
reader,
on there.
or like a little arm or something.
Yeah, just something that where it's not just open. So
Yeah.
things like that, where I was like, oh, maybe we could use the 50,000 for that, or little things just to tie up some loose ends, or
Having that be an automatic opening gate would be ideal. We got a little pushback from the gate. I had to get that cleared because Unfortunately, behind the building is like where the Cisco trucks have to go and the dumpster at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. And like,
Oh, no, I'm talking about the walking part, the part that's on
oh,
the
the
side.
walking one, we have a badge. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that, like right by the
Yeah,
cafeteria.
we
where
need
put a gate
electricity
right
to
there.
run to there.
Exactly. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
we could do something like that with that money for sure. You can use it any way you want. I think APS said they were going to give us like a choice board of like how you can spend the funds though.
Okay.
So I'm sure that would be one of them. Additional security measures outside of the school. Okay, so what I wanted to show you was this here. This on the left side are all new positions. Well, let's start on the right side. These are the ones that I had to remove in order to create these positions. We had an EIP 4 through 5 position that I abolished. And I want you to know we moved a lot of the supports to the primary center because we're going to have over 500 kids there and about 350 at the main campus, or maybe 370, 380 at the main campus. But we don't need the 4-5 intervention teacher at main campus anymore. We're going to slide it down, and we're going to create an EIP 1st through 3rd, which is going to be a full-time intervention position. So it's basically just taking the main campus one down to the primary. For those that know this position, it was pretty much at the primary center all year anyway. It just had this name on it, and I'm trying to name it this so we're not out of compliance. The next one was an EIP 4-5. It was actually a 3rd grade position, so it's a little bit out of compliance. I went ahead and abolished that because they don't need that 7th teacher on 3rd, and I moved it down here where it's going to be an EIP 1st through 3rd and be an additional 2nd grade teacher. So there's that 7th teacher on 2nd. Then I added another 2nd grade teacher. That's going to be the 8th teacher on 2nd. We are going to get we're abolishing the hourly school clerk position, and we're making it full time. We're making it full time. The reason being is we're going to have a retirement in this position, and I'm not going to be able to find an hourly clerk that's going to be able to work. That's not a position people want or will take. So if you have any questions around that, you can ask me maybe outside the meeting, but we are going to just move to a full-time clerk position. Here's my 3 CARES positions that Kim was talking about with her great memory. These were all on CARES funding. So I had to move, in order to save these positions, I had to move them onto general budget. So the first one was a 0.5 EIP. It was basically just split between a 0.5 on my budget and a 0.5 on CARES. So now it's a 1.0 on my budget. That's all it is. So that's a 5th grade teacher. The other one was a 3rd grade teacher that was on CARES. Now she's back on our general budget. The next one was a kindergarten para, which was on CARES and is now back on our budget. So none of these positions and none of these people need to be abolished or leveled. Okay. And we are, and these are the positions that we're doing away with. We have an hourly para here that's going to shift over to a full-time kindergarten role because we have a kindergarten para who's retiring. It's not a new position, but she's staying at Brandon. So it shows you that we're committed to keeping people whose positions are being abolished. Any questions around this? All right. All right. We talked about the reserve. We talked about this. The next time we come, I'm going to show you a breakdown of when I opened my budget, what the green was in the green and how we got it all the way down to 0. And I'm just going to give you that breakdown. I want to make sure you understand how all of these created positions align to our strategic plan. You don't really see anything on here, outside of a clerk, but we have to have a clerk to help run our main campus. And we need somebody who's full-time, is all aligned to our strategic priorities. Go ahead, Maggie.
Jay, I know that can you go to the slide where you've got the reserve funds? Okay. I know that hiring another school counselor is expensive. One idea that we've kind of talked about in the past is taking the school counselor out of the specials rotation and replacing that with a para role, which is much cheaper. So having a paraprofessional either taking on a technology class or teaching 2nd step SEL lessons, or maybe teaching from the slides and plans that the guidance counselor created, but then having the guidance counselor, we're not getting a second one, but we're opening up 2 days out of her schedule.
Giving her 2 more days in her schedule. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a fantastic idea, to be completely honest with you. I do want to remind everybody that we're talking about 3 weeks into the school year. So you have to just kind of think about who you can find at that time who's not under contract. But I think what you said is great. And I would even lean towards maybe finding another just specialist This school's getting big. We have 8 per grade level. Instead of having 3 split to 4 classes, what if we got a 4th specialist, right? And then the counselors relieved.
We are gonna need another specialist when we start talking about increasing grade levels to bigger
Exactly.
class sizes, because it's splitting classes and combining
It,
them.
it right
Tuesdays
now,
is a nightmare.
right now the plan is to have 4 classes and each grade level in K2 go to specials at different times, but those 4 have to split among 3 specialists. And
so
I'm
we-
not talking about less class sizes, but you are talking if you have 20 and then add another 25, 28, you're adding about 28 in the special class.
Yeah, that's something I would really, I don't even know. Sorry, is the leveling reserve is if we hit a certain number?
If I hit
That's not-
893, this will be released to me on August 15th.
Okay, and then another question I have is when you go back, this is way back, to that pie chart that you had with the way the funds are distributed.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
is counted as a school administrator? Is it just you, Kate, and then our 2 APs? Or does that also include instructional coaches?
That's one that we have to kind of find out, right? Like who falls under what category? Because on my budget template, it doesn't really say that. And that's a good question. It's 9% of our school, but it's not, that has to be more than just 2 APs, a principal but also we're talking about the actual money and we get paid a little bit more.
No, yeah, obviously, but
so
I was
maybe
just thinking 9% I just wanted to know who fell into that, because that feels like
yeah,
a big.
I think that we have to find that out though. I think we have to know, like, I feel like Dr. Dalton, like the CELT would fall under that category because he has a little bit of a leadership role. He's year round, he gets paid year round, right? So like that could be one, but I just don't know. And that's something I'll find out for the next meeting for the 29th.
I
I-
am thinking, because it was 7, right? I'm thinking it's principal, program administrator, assistant principal, coach, IB, and self. But I'm still struggling to find the 6. Because that's 7, right? Did I get 7? Principal, program administrator, assistant principal, coach, IB, and self. That's my
That's
7.
probably it. That's probably it.
But then I'm struggling to find the 6 who are the per pupil, and I don't know how much per
Pupil
pupil
services.
was, if that was part of the 9% or if that's an addition. And I'm thinking counselor, social worker, MTSS, and then I'm guessing ESOL. And I've got 2.
ESOL, and then
But then
maybe gifted.
Oh,
and
gifted.
That's 5,
And
and then we're
EIP,
looking
okay.
for one. And then we're looking for one more. Like if you and I sat down and kind of went through it, I
Yeah.
probably could tell you. But I need to just find out what positions fall under which of those, and I'll have that by the 29th. I think we're on the right path. Go ahead, Ashley.
I have a question. This is totally naive. I'm just looking at big picture here. Is it normal to have 2 assistant principals like at our main campus? I know we have Miss Nails, right, at primary, 500 kids.
Yep.
And then we have 2 assistant principals plus yourself at main for like 350 kids.
Right.
Is that like standard in our schools?
I would say no, but
Oh, okay.
but I will tell you that Miss Lamb is only at the primary center. So Miss Lamb,
Is she an AP? I thought
she's
she was
she's an
instructional.
instructional coach.
Okay.
However, she pretty much, her and Kate run the day-to-day of this building. Ms. Nails asked for Ms. Lamb full-time when she would go back
Yeah.
and forth. So she wanted her full-time. And so
Yeah.
we have basically 2 full-time at primary, 2 full-time at main, and then it's me that goes back and forth to help support 2. But I will tell you, there was talk about making another assistant principal role and moving her into that type of role to help kind of with the evaluations and stuff, because it's not even on Kate with the amount of teachers she has to evaluate. But
You're talking about
What?
3 assistant principals for our school?
there was talk about that, but
Okay.
So
that's not on the plan.
I would like to be on that conversation if that continues.
Well, because
Jake-
main campus also has Sam.
Well, and I also just want to say this. The issue with not having APs and coaches is not so much like handling discipline and all that, is that there's a ton of evaluations we have to do. We have a ton, every single person is on an evaluation plan. We're talking 112 people, and only 4 of us can do that right now. You know, like I'll give you an example, like Curtis Douglas in North Atlanta. He did away with his business manager because she couldn't do evaluations, and he has so many staff, he needed people to help with evaluation. So he had to create another position. That's not on my radar right now. And if I were to do that, we would abolish like the coach's position, so it wouldn't affect the budget as much. But go ahead, Ashley, I'm listening.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand like so the responsibilities of the two APs at main campus are to evaluate the teachers at main campus, but don't we have less teachers at main campus?
Yes, but that is a very small part of the job. So let me just kind of lay it off for you too. First of all, you have more discipline at main campus, right? And
Yeah.
APs have to work with student services and discipline and older kids and that type of thing. The other thing is each of those two APs at main campus, they handle school-wide stuff. Like Miss Topper is the full-time testing coordinator. She's a testing coordinator. So she has to handle testing for the whole school, which is not on Kate. She doesn't have to do that for primary center. So Miss Topper handles all that. Ms. Small handles everything that has to do with safety and student services at Brandon. So she sort of oversees special ed, kind of EIP, all the safety initiatives that go across both campuses. I want to remind everybody that when I first got here, we had people going back and forth. Like it would be Tamika here on Tuesday, here on Wednesday. After about 3 years, we were run very quickly. It's just not a model that works for two schools. We would leave things hanging. Did you pick that one up? Did you call that parent? Okay, now you're there that day. So we had to make the call of who's staying in what building and when and how. And after careful talking with Kate and I, Kate said, give me Miss Lamb and we'll run this building with you. That's me included because I come over there a lot. And then main campus will have two APs with me as well. Sam DiCarlo is also at Maine as an instructional coach, but he also handles IB for the whole school too, along with Miss Lamb. But it's just kind of how the staffing has worked out. It seems a little top heavy at Maine with less kids, but there's more needs there right now, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. All right, we talked about this. Any questions around the created positions that are here? These are all positions, the EIP first through third, the EIP, the second grade teacher, all at PC. The school clerk is back at MC. And then the third and K, we know what buildings those are in and supporting. Take a look at these two questions and you can read them. The district piece, Maggie can speak maybe to a little of that because she's on our cluster advisory team as well as I. Signature programming, those types of things.
And not anymore, Jay. That was a long.
Yeah, Ina.
Oh, it's Ina. That's right. It's Ina.
Ina's
So we only
on.
had one meeting, but we do have one coming up, I think. I want to talk about just kind of where this is. So I know we've had a lot of questions here, but we're not voting on, how many APs we have at one building or the other, or, like the staffing and the numbers. We're going to vote on, do these positions serve the needs of our school? Do they create lower class sizes while also serving our vulnerable populations? Are we supporting DLI, gifted, special education in this budget? And all of our priorities. And so I'm going to take this to our staffing conference on Tuesday. If they give me the go ahead, I come back to you on that Thursday with the breakdown of the budgets, and then we vote. I'm happy to meet with anybody. I know I'm meeting with some people next week. I am working. If anybody needs a little one-on-one time to work through this a little bit more, schedule with me. We can absolutely do working sessions. If you need a little bit more clarity, kind of around what any of this is.
So next meeting, we're gonna vote on. Okay, so the dipping into the reserve slide, I'm confused on like, are we choosing a position or?
No, this is just
No,
for,
we're
I
not
can't read the top because my little thing is under it.
Yes. Okay.
But the reserve is really just a plan for how we're using that money. We're not using it yet, but you guys would say like, that's a good plan for that money. Like I'm okay with that.
Okay.
What we would do when we come back 15 days in, I would update you all on how we're spending that. Then we would have more. But the reserve is not the most important right now. It's because that's not going to be available to us. But Go Team can say, let's use it now and buy one of these positions. But again, we want to be a little bit more conservative probably because we have everything we sort of need right now. And then we can tap into that once the school year starts.
Plus, we don't know if we actually have $147,086.
By the way, if we come in over 893, which we get more money. So, we want to hit 900. Let's get another, 7 times 5, So that's kind of how it happened this year. Our 2 autism units brought in 22 more kids that I didn't know if we were going to get funding for, but they did. And that's why we were able to, kind of get that 0.5 celled and just have enough money to get through the year. But we're not going to have the autism units coming to us this year.
I
So
really think getting another specialist, and I don't know if it needs to happen after school starts because of the way the money works, but I really think with 8 classes on some of these grade levels, if we could find a way, even if it was through a para paid role like we've done with technology in the past, I think that's something that we should really consider and pull the guidance counselor out of the Tuesday rotation. But even just to make the rest of the rotations make more sense, I think that's something that would really be worth looking closely at.
Yeah, Maggie, in our Go Team Summit, they talked a lot of the other schools talked about using paras in specials rotation. I didn't, remember it was like, the hairstylist did it for that one school, theater, like a local artist. You could pay
Honestly, if somebody took the kids out for extra recess once a week as their, I'm not joking. Like if it was like, here's a parent that takes the kids out for extra recess and it's like free play social skills. We work on sharing, learning the rules to games. I think it'd be good for kids. I think it would be great for the schedule. And I know I know it might have to be something we have to look at after we get the kids in the building. But I don't think it has to be too complicated. But I think it would make a big difference.
Just a couple things I do want to say is I do hear you on that. We have to kind of look at like job descriptions, and if we're paying PE, art, and music $109,000 a year, and then a para to sort of just do the same thing, like to have a whole group of kids to do something that might be out of the job description, or they may not want to do something like that with doing the same thing another teacher is. I personally, we have to just kind of think about that. I don't quite know, like, hey, you're going to be a para. I need you to do, it's going to have to be some technology, maybe another, I don't know, like what can one para do? It sounds great on paper, but
drama, art,
drama,
theater.
right? So I would just like
the resources here in Atlanta. Yeah.
That's a great question. That's a great one. But I will tell you, to find a paraprofessional that really doesn't make, it's 50 grand, but like 30,000 of that is their benefits. Like to make $20,000 a year to work full time to teach drama, that's very like nichey, and to find, we have to just think about how you find that position. The easiest way to do it is to hire another specialist. Just get a drama teacher. Like I can do that. Yeah. Like it's going to be $109,000, but that's going to come at a 5th grade teacher. That's where it is right now. We don't have the money right now to do that. So that's when we come back and we say, we want reduced class sizes, or we want our specialists to have more kids. That is what it is. I just ran the numbers. You split 168 divided by 2, you have, 80 something, and then divide that by 3, you're talking about specials classes of 28 kids. Is that make or break for PE, art, and music? I don't know.
We almost need a para for the specialists.
Could we get a pair? Now, that's a good one, though. Could a para float around the specials, right? Yes. There's only one. So how do they go to PE, art, and music? Now PE has no problem getting 28. Like I will tell you, PE teachers, I had 50 in a class at Sutton. That's what my class, we had 3 PE teachers in a gym, and it was 150 kids. That's what we had at Sutton. PE's not going to complain about big classes. Art, music is a little bit more. Do we look at getting a para to just support art and music? Like I could do that. But those are the kind of things that we need to discuss.
Before. We've doubled up and put 2 classes in PE with a para. We've done that before. So maybe just 2 classes go to PE, 1 goes to music, 1 goes to art.
Okay. Sorry, quick phone call. Sorry.
I think we can get creative on the para, right? So, and I think maybe it's 2 paras, and 1 para only works 2 days a week, and 1 para works 3 days a week. And maybe you're finding
flex.
You're getting another. We're gonna have to tap into another niche of someone that wants flexible hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Could we get the para like once the school year starts though, or do we need to do it right now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we can go
once the school year starts. Yeah.
I think we're, you know, if we're leaning towards that, like, I'm open to that. But the 2 paras to help support the primary center specials, which is not on our strategic plan around reducing class sizes in PE and art and music, is going to come at the price of a school counselor or a gifted teacher. That's the $1 million question of the Go Team's decision.
It would be pulling the school counselor out of the rotation.
Okay, so that would solve that.
So- So
But remember,
it's
she's only on
hitting,
Tuesdays. We need to find, like, Tuesdays, we have to have 6 specials because we have to have 160 that go at once. PE,
Tuesday-
art, music, media center, technology, media center, technology, we'll use both media specialists, and then that can be the last one and pull counseling out. So, but the para, it's just, it's a little tricky.
Yeah, I think it's but I do think I would feel better to do it when school year ends, when school year starts and we actually have the number.
Yeah, let's look at our needs, like, right? Let's look at our needs when the school year starts. Because honestly, this might be a mute conversation if we come in 20 kids under, you know? Then
Yeah.
we kind of have to go the other direction. But what
Let's move on.
I'm hearing is support counseling by pulling them out of specials rotation and figuring out how to get somebody else.
Yes,
That
I
kills
like
2 birds with 1 stone. I like
Yeah.
that. I do. So we'll think about that, and I'll keep that on the back burner. All right, I just want to show you where we're going. Budget approval meeting next on the 27th. I have to present the final budget recommendations for Go Team approval on the 29th of February. Are we meeting again in March? Is there another one in early March? Am I approving it on the 29th, or do we need to meet again on the 7th or the 14th? We have a meeting on the 14th. We do have one on the 14th.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you, if we can approve the budget on the 29th, we don't have to meet on the 14th. The issue is pushing it to the 14th is making it extremely close to the deadline if something were to go right. So what I'm going to propose is that we come back on the 29th and I lay out the budget with you again. I show you the breakdown. I show you how we'll use the reserves, and we want to try and vote then. And if we don't, I'll go back to the drawing board and we'll just go on the 14th. But we can approve it on the 29th and we're done.
Do we potentially get more budget depending on like how the IB in-person like evaluation goes and or the gifted number changes? Like, is that significant enough to make a difference, or?
That's a great question. Right now, we're for IB, we can get more money based on levels of IB we are. I don't know what level we're on, but we can definitely earn more money. And if we have a really good evaluation, and we can self-report that we're like a level 3, which we're not at right now, for implementation, and they would give us more money, but for the following year. So we don't get how, if we looked at our strategic, I don't think that slides in this one, but it's in the other deck that I have, but it was the signature program and how much money we get for that. That's why North Atlanta, like Curtis, is always so angry because he gets the same amount of money as like Brandon does. But yes, we can earn more, but that's a good time to do it next year when our evaluation is done. And then we self-report at the end of the year that we had no matters to be addressed. We fully implemented it and we need more money for signature program, and they would give it to us. But I think Sam has us at a level 2 right now. Level 3 is what gets you more money. And then you asked another one around, say it one more time.
Like if the gifted students ratio changes or things like that, that allocate more budget.
So right now, the only allocation we have is what's on here for gifted. If we have more kids come in, we don't get the weight on top of them if they're gifted. We just get the base weight. Right. So it's all captured during what's called FTE, like that little snapshot you get on like March 7th, the whole state looks at it, and they've already accounted us for like 237 gifted students for next year, and that's all we have. If we get 50 gifted kids that come in out of nowhere, we just get the base formula for them and not the weight on top of it. So the idea next year is to continue to identify gifted kids, get more and more identified, and then when our budget comes back, then we get that base weight for the following year. So that ship's kind of. All right, I want to show you this February and March. I'm going to just do a couple quick things. I want to remind you all this information. You can help spread the word. Number one is APS Power Up registration is open. This is our summer school. I was at a principal meeting yesterday. They made a big push for this. We have a list of 110 students that have been identified as high needs that need to go there. I've already sent that list to Mary and Mr. Rock, who are going to start calling those families and registering them. And we are not going to tell them that they were identified. We're just going to, we want to push them to that. And the list is going to be shared with all of our teachers in the next Bites newsletter, staff newsletter. But we want to go ahead and get these kids enrolled. We want all of our teachers to have anybody's eligible for summer school. It's the whole month of June. Deadline is April 12th. And it should be on the website. It should have been in the B-mail today, but it'll be in next week or the Wednesday we get back. They know about it and they're going to run it until April 12th. It'll be in the teachers' newsletters and just help spread the word on that.
Is it at Bolton this year?
Great question. Bolton, yes. They tried to give it back to me, but I'm not taking it this year. We've done 2 out of the last 3 years. So it's going to be at Bolton.
And it's free.
And it's free.
And are they gonna have a DLI portion again this year?
I believe so. I haven't heard the DLI specificities, but my understanding is that they had in the past. They'll definitely have like a DLI track, and they're going to be hiring Spanish teachers and that type of thing. So I believe so. They're trying to make it include. I didn't know if they were going to be able to have it this year, but I guess they found a lot of funding and they allotted it out of the budget for next year. So that is happening at Bolton. There's it's in the afternoon. They're going to do less of the power up, like the vendors, and they're going to do more of hiring actual PE, art, and music teachers and do specials at the end of the day. Because they also felt like while a homeroom teacher can make $7 grand during the month of June, like a PE teacher it just can't do it, right? But now they're going to be hiring PE, art, music teachers, so students can go to specials at the end of the day.
That's cool.
Readers are leaders. Well, before I get to that, let's jump to Go Team declarations. This is important. We need 2 parents and 2 staff. I do believe Kim is rolling off as a community member, and she's going to run again for the parent seat. So she's obviously a great candidate for that, as somebody who has experience and knowledge of our Go Team in our school. And then anyone else, we will continue to onboard and look for people, and then we'll have that vote coming up. So get the word out on that. And if there's candidates that you like, campaign for them, because we want people that are good. The last thing, I just want to tell you a hiring update, and I'm going to go back to this slide, because if you think I'm just creating these positions and haven't gotten hiring yet, you're wrong, because we have already hired some of the best people in the city of Atlanta. I do want you to know that we have hired a 2nd grade teacher, an additional one, where we have hired the intervention teacher for next year as well. So those are 2 positions that we've already hired for. These are, and actually, these are not positions that were created, these people that are leaving. So, they're not like new positions. So I'll just tell you this, the 2nd grade teacher that I created, we need to have, and I've hired for that. We have an intervention teacher leaving. So we've moved another intervention teacher into that role, which has freed up the 0.5 intervention in ESOL. So we made a recommendation for hire on that. We have a 4th grade teacher that's leaving. You won't see that on here because it's not a new position, but we've already hired for that. I'm excited to have a male teaching 4th grade next year. It's going to be awesome. He's going to be phenomenal. And then we have a vacancy in kindergarten right now that we're actively interviewing for. Not a newly created position. It's just a kindergarten teacher who's leaving. And so we are moving for that. And also the literacy coach position we talked about has also been created. So we're going to hire internally for that. And that's going to create another vacancy. So I wanted to update you on just some hiring stuff. The last thing is readers are leaders. I'm going to show you this quick PowerPoint. And don't kill me because I know we were ready to go. But I just want to show you this because this, okay, there we go. This is what's being shared. I'm going to go through this quickly with every single APS employee. And now I want to show you a little bit around what this initiative is from Dr. Battle. We have 2 new House bills, 1 state bill, 1 House bill we talked a lot about House Bill 538 and what that is. We talked about, we actually wrote some of this language into our strategic plan together, if you remember, because there's requirements that we have to do before next year. The 5 components of House Bill are instructional materials, screeners, interventions, professional learning, and teacher prep. Right now, the district is focusing on professional learning, okay, and teacher preparation. Interventions is a big one. All those EIP teachers we have, all those intervention teachers fall right in line with this. Universal screener, we already have MAP. Instructional materials is coming not next year, but the year after. And Wit and Wisdom is not on that list. And we're going to talk about that. We're moving from balanced to structured literacy. Another word for structured literacy is systematic science-based reading and writing strategies, also known as science of reading. And we're looking at like hard data and research as opposed to sort of what we've done in the past. This has to do a little bit with the science of reading. This is where the parts of brain that lots of scientists and doctors have learned help students to read. The big thing about this is you're going to learn that you can't just expect a student to read by what we've been doing. Now, APS, Brandon has great literacy data, but is not that way all the way around the city. So we have to be a little more systematic and strategic on how we're teaching reading. 95% of students can learn how to read. Interesting how it's not 100%. Science of reading. This is called Scarborough's Rope. You may have seen this before or heard of it. Very well researched. Talks about taking increasingly automatic with increasingly strategic skills for reading, tying them all together to build a skilled reader. We used to just talk about phonemic and phonological awareness, pair that with comprehension and vocabulary and fluency even, and we get a reader. That's what we get. But how do we get there? You got to have a little bit more. We got to build on students' background knowledge, right? Language structures. Talking about that the way students speak, we have to value that. There's actually African American English that we're learning about, and how we support that language and reinforce that with others, the skilled readers and skilled language, verbal reasoning, literacy knowledge. This is the word recognition. Tie it all together. That's how you get a skilled reader. Little bit around the simple view of reading. Okay, it's getting a lot more complex on how we teach reading. We are partnered with the Rollins Center in APS. Rollins Center is the speech school. These are some pilot schools that have done this. And what we're going to do is we are going to do an 18-month rollout of learning modules. And we're going to use what's called Cox Campus. Every single teacher at Morris Brandon, and that's in kindergarten and 5th grade, including paraprofessionals, art, music, PE, everybody K-5 is going to be taking 8 modules. I've already started. I've completed my first 4-hour module on oral literacy and reading, and we get stipends for that. This is going across the whole district. The superintendent's going to talk to us about it on Monday. We take the modules on what's called Georgia Learns. It's free. And the reason they're using Cox Campus is because it's free. This just shows you how to get there. We can skip that piece. These are the modules. Every single person at Morris Brandon is going to be have all of these modules completed, along with being paired with professional learning afterwards from our new literacy coach. I know Mindy, Maggie, they've all heard this before. These are the due dates, by the way, for principals, assistant principals, coaches, and teachers. I've already had mine because yesterday was the 13th, whatever that date is. It's covered up a little bit for me. So I wanted to show you all that because I believe it aligns to sort of what we're asking in our budget, but also because parents don't know this yet. They just don't know this is happening. And one of the questions, this is all great stuff. When are they going to find out about it? So I wanted you all to just kind of see that and understand that that's happening as well, and that it was really smart of us and good to put some of this language in our strategic plan, because like I said, it's all coming and the professional learning is there. So when I talked about funding that science of reading coach and that money, like they're going to deliver that's going to be all aligned to this House Bill 538 in our plans.
Jay, I think it's great for you to share that information here because we've got some people who do tours for our school, and I think that's great for people to know how much we're investing. Morris Brandon we've been spending a lot of money in reading instruction and teacher development for forever. But the fact that we're ramping it up and that we're getting it to everybody, and it's not just people interested, it's not just K2 or K3. I think that's going to be a great selling point for our school to families who are weighing their options.
I do
Could
too.
we have a copy of that PowerPoint so we can kind of pull out some talking points, or
I'm
maybe
happy to share it with you guys after.
some talking points? Yeah.
I'm happy to share it.
I
Also,
think it's there with parents too during principal talk, but
yes, because that is something that our community does not know about right now.
Yeah,
And
they have
every
no idea.
single teacher is going to be certified and like trained in the science of reading. And they're trying to kind of copy what happened in, like I said, Marietta and Fulton and Mississippi and other states that have done this. The one thing you're not seeing,
just teachers, paraprofessionals, and
bus
like
drivers.
art teachers, PE teachers, like
Yeah.
it's really comprehensive.
everybody that touches those kids. And I'm gonna tell you, I had a PL yesterday based on the first module, and we were given a book that's called 7 Strategies for, I don't know, something, skilled readers. And so what's gonna happen, and teachers are gonna get this too, I'm just a little bit ahead. We went through the 7 strategies, teaching students what to say when they don't know how to say it, have students speak in full sentences, randomize and rotate when calling on students, use total response signals to check for understanding. There's 3 more. Use visuals and vocab strategies to support your objective, have students participate in structured conversations, and have students participate in structured reading and writing. What we have to do as a school, and Mindy and them have not heard that yet, we're going to pick 2 to 3 of those strategies that we're going to use school-wide. We're going to plan around each strategy, and we're going to identify model lab teachers who will model this strategy. So that's kind of coming what's next to our staff. I just got it yesterday. Staff will get this at the next staff meeting. We're going to go through these 7 strategies. We're going to pick teachers that embody one of these. We're going to pick a school-wide one, and we're going to do work around it. Like I said, a lot more structured, and this is going to every 64 elementary schools for the first time. Like, we are all very much doing the same thing. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to hand it back over to you, Ashley.
Yep. So it is public comment. I know we had a couple of comments in the chat there. So if there's anyone who'd like to come on and give some comments, we're all ears.
Awesome. Can I go
Yeah.
first? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Maggie?
I was just gonna say, but we can't reply to whatever you say.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we just
yeah,
did-
I get it.
Sorry.
Yep. I just get the opportunity to talk at you.
Yeah.
Okay. And do I have 2 minutes? Is that standard practice or?
Yep.
Oh, okay. 2 minutes. I'll time myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Shields. I am, in this context, parent of a first grade DLI student and a rising kindergarten DLI student. And in like my other context, I've been a school administrator for 20 years, most recently as the CFO of the 12 KIPP charter schools, public schools here in Atlanta. And as Jay knows, that adventure just ended. And so I'm excited to do other things, but running for Go Team next year, in part because that's where sort of my expertise lies. And I know that these budget conversations are just so important because the budget communicates what we care about. I also know that the Go Team, one of their responsibilities is around like holding school administrators accountable. And the most important job in my eyes of school administration is culture. And so for me, that means, because, you know, taglines are like culture eats strategy for breakfast. It is not what you do, it is the how. And sort of connected to today's conversation and what I hear as a parent around concerns around Morris Brandon is security. So I'm super grateful to celebrate the double vestibule in the buildings, because it is not okay that once you are through that door, you have access to a classroom within like 25 feet. So I'm so grateful to hear that the double vestibules are coming. And so to the extent we can continue to advocate for them to be on time, to be excellent would be great. The other thing though, that is not okay is that when I walk in the door, there's a, I would say, lack of security culture, right? And I don't think that glazing or fencing will solve that. So as Go Team members, we need to think about how we hold our school administrators accountable to the security culture. It's not okay that I can just say, hey, I'm here to pick up Libby Shields and she's sent to me. It's terrifying. No, I'm not in the school enough for anyone to know my name besides Glenn, and that's only because Avery and Libby played softball together last year. So that's my time. The headline though is around connecting our budget to security investments and our security culture, and how we as Go Team and a parent community can make sure all of those things are operating and singing in alignment.
Thank you, Kelly. All right. Anyone else like to make a comment that's on? Okay. I don't think I have any other business, and we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there anything else anyone wants to? Nope. Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Thomas. A second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ashley. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned.
All right, appreciate everybody. We'll see you on that Thursday we come back. And if we can vote on that day based on what I present, we'll be in good standing. We probably don't need to have that other meeting in March, but if we need to have it, we have it on the calendar, okay?
And do your training because we can't vote unless everyone's done
That's
their
true. Do your training. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great
Thank
winter break. If I
you.
don't see you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks, everybody.